Anyway, so, talking about the Ahamkara, correct?
Yes, the wish-granting drag destiny universe that we hunted to extinction.
Um, so, just so I can play in at the same time I'm using the Ishtar Collective to look at the lore.
Alright, so you mentioned earlier to me over uh, or a message that one of my theories may have actually been correct.
Yes, and I'll discuss that once we get to one of the Grimoire cards.
Alright,
Alright, so, according to the... So, this is just the description that it gives on the Ahamkara starting out. A species first encountered by humans on Venus, said to resemble dragons. They were exterminated by order of the Tower. Obviously, they weren't all exterminated, but to the Tower's knowledge, they were.
right.
The Ahamkara appeared sometime after the Traveler terraformed Venus. They are described as the dragons that made promises, and many guardians made deals with them for knowledge and power.
Right.
Right, so obviously, what we gather from this is they were born after the Traveler woke up and after Venus was terraformed. Where are you?
Sounds about right. Which, for people that don't know, if you actually go to Venus in Destiny 1, you go to a certain location and look down toward the fort, of like a forest area, you can actually see something that looks kind of like a dragon. Many people in the day thought that was an Ahamkara. And it's possible. It's really possible that we may have missed a couple. I mean, we missed Riven.
Yes. It goes on to say, the Tower came to the decision that the price of these deals was too high, and ordered that the Ahamkara be made extinct in what came to be known as the Great Ahamkara Hunt. And obviously we
Yes.
don't get much of the Ahamkara Hunt, at least not until Destiny 2. We get more of it through the armor pieces from the raid.
Exactly. Like,
Which we will look
the...
into, but probably gonna save them until after I look at the Grimoire cards. After we look at the Grimoire cards for them.
Yes. A lot of people don't know, but actually the real lore of Destiny was hidden within the Grimoire cards, which not a lot of people knew how to get to. And those that did, well, good job. But, but no, that's where all the secrets basically lie, where it was in those cards. Like, little
Yes.
hidden story pieces that the developers of Bungie decided would be the best place to store that.
Yep.
Like, if it wasn't for those, you would have never known more lore about the freaking game.
Nowadays, it's been made easier to find. In fact, Bungie is coming out with a book of their Grimoire.
Which I have pre-ordered, which comes with the entire volume of the Book of Sorrows, which I will be reading.
Yes, and we will be discussing that as well at some point.
That goes into explaining how orcs got his powers to like take places, how take people, how orcs basically became taken king, developed this
Yes.
a way of learning known as the sword logic.
But more on that later. For now, it goes on to say the evidence suggests that it was primarily the warlocks that were responsible for wiping them out, although some non-warlocks certainly contributed. Following their extinction, the Ahamkara continued to be of interest to Guardians, although the study of Ahamkara lore is frowned upon by many. Whoops. Wasn't us.
Uh,
I can explain. Oh, I'm sure it's only Zavala that would have his panties in a twist.
Ah, yes, he's always so serious about his business. But anyways,
Okay, so that was the description it gave on the Ahamkara.
right.
Anything
Now,
to add about them there before we go into the actual Grimoire cards?
yeah, for some reason, the Vanguard never really talked about the Great Hunt. Well, as they suggest, talking about the whole Ahamkara lore is very frowned upon. Why keep it secret? Why not tell like the old Guardians or new Guardians about this? Because obviously the Ahamkara are dead. It's not like we're gonna chase after them and get our wishes granted. Why keep it a secret? That's my question. But other than that, should we add? Are we gonna add about like the abilities of the Ahamkara here, or is that in the Grimoire cards as well?
That is possibly in the armor and some of the exotic armor from original Destiny, and I'll get to those as well. But I
All
just
right.
want to kind of adding their abilities as it goes.
All right.
Because I did have a theory, and I will say that now, that I don't think the Ahamkara are as powerful as we believe them to be.
It would make sense.
Yes, and the Grimoire
But
cards, I believe those, as well as the armor, will tell us exactly what abilities they have, and I will be listing off what powers that we know for a fact that they own.
yes, because all Ahamkara are definitely varied in size, abilities, and like well personal traits of themselves as well. And we'll also get into like why they went to the reef or why they did what they did and some of the things that they did as well. So without further ado, would you like to take it from here?
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to find this other commander, though.
Oh
The
yeah,
other
this
drill officer. Oh, there he is. Die.
He's dead.
Okay, yep. So now going into the Grimoire cards, the first one that speaks of them I want to read is the City Age.
All right, continue.
So the City Age, it added in original Destiny. It says, when did the City Age begin? Perhaps when the bulk of the world's survivors lived beneath the Traveler, rather than in the wilderness, or when the Titans raised the first wall, or at Six Fronts, when the city first faced coordinated, overwhelming attacks and repelled it decisively. The city did not rise without struggle. Warlords in wilderness, fiefdoms clung to power, starvation, disease, and anarchy menaced. I'm sorry,
And I was
trying
about
to
to
clear
shoot
out
and
the,
read at the same time.
yeah.
Get the
But the Guardians held the frontier, and the children of the Golden Age kept the fire burning through the long climb back. Legends walk through this history. The Iron Lords, Saint 14's crusade against the Fallen, the Mask of the Speaker, the Great Ahamkara Hunt, Toland's Madness, terrible faction wars, and the horrifying, disastrous effort to retake the moon. As the city learned to walk again, it found a world overrun by alien menace. It faced disaster and defeat. Even in recent years, as Guardians began to venture back to the moon and the inner planet, the city's territory has withdrawn. Outer sections abandoned and converted into fortifications in the wake of the Battle of Twilight Gap. But the city's shipwrights and foundries hum with energy. The probability kilns and work cooperatives produce new wonders. The darkness is rising again, but so is the light.
Yep.
So, there's only one mention of the Ahamkara there, and it's pretty much to show that the Ahamkara are from the City Age, or the Great Ahamkara Hunt, at least, took place during the City Age.
Right. Obviously, years before we came back.
Yes.
Or Rise of Guardian. Because if that was the case, we would have He would have definitely been a part of that.
Yeah, and I think
Now,
it's also interesting to mention that the Great Ahamkara Hunt, it's listed after the Iron Lord Saint 14's crusade against the Fallen and the Mask of the Speaker, but before Toland's madness and the whole moon incident. So we know that at least the Iron Lords Saint 14 and the Speaker were around during the Ahamkara Hunt.
oh, definitely. And if that, and if with all that, you know that this means like, oh god, I'm gonna die. All this, this is basically telling us this is before a lot of the things happened. Taking war, basically before like maybe I don't know, Krita took the moon, Ahai started thriving on the moon. Maybe even before Twilight Gap. Who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe
and
after.
Twilight Gap, it also sounds interesting. I definitely, quick side note, I do want to look into that as well eventually.
Oh, we will. 'Cause that's actually a really important thing of Destiny history right there.
Yeah. Alright. Alright, and here's the boss
Off
fight,
time.
so excuse me for a moment as I destroy this boss into his second phase. Okay, maybe we'll
He's going.
just
Okay,
skip.
never mind.
Okay, skip all phases. I'm just jumping all the way
Good.
down. I just jumped off the
Well,
edge to get down here faster. So yeah, that's all we get out of that card is that the Great Ahamkara hunt took place during the City Age. Not really too revealing and doesn't give us much on the Ahamkara, just a timestamp of when the hunt took place.
that's giving us like a clear view of when this happened. Like, I'm gonna get like if I had to put it directly on the timeline, I would probably have to say this happened a little bit before the fall of the Golden Age.
Mm.
That's what I would have to guess because um obviously I think maybe Twilight Gap between like the Twilight Gap and stuff that might have been the thing. Speaking of the Fallen, I will want to look into like the whole like whirlwind incident with the Fallen.
I do want to
That's
look at each race individually eventually as well, so I'm with you there.
oh yeah. But for now, we're starting with the most mysterious of them, the Ahamkara.
Okay, so the next bit of lore I want to look at, the next Grimoire card, is Ghost Fragments Legends 3, The Great Ahamkara Hunt. So this speaks directly on the Ahamkara Hunt, and as the Grimoire card goes, after great deliberation, it was determined that the Ahamkara be made extinct. It was not an easy decision. Power had been obtained from the bargains, and the city needed power. Knowledge had been gleaned, and the Ahamkara knew answers to questions no one had known to ask. But the price was too high, and no edict or forbearance seemed to stop guardians from seeking them out, driven by hope or vengeance or despair. The call had to be silenced, so the great hunt did its work, and thus the Ahamkara were made extinct, their call silenced, their solipsistic flatteries erased, their great design, if it ever existed, broken. Of this you can be assured, O reader mine. Alright,
Ooh.
so anything you would like to talk about from that?
Well, obviously, one thing that I'd like to point out is basically it's saying that at one point, from what it sounds, or what I'm guessing, is that we relied on the Ahamkara for some things.
Yes, it said the tower got was powered by the Ahamkara, from what it seems.
I'm guessing some of the knowledge that we know, some of the knowledge that the warlocks gained over time, that was also from the Ahamkara.
Yeah, and I'd also like to put that down as one of the definite powers the Ahamkara has, is infinite knowledge. As it says, Ahamkara knew answers to questions no one had known to ask. So we know
So
the
basically,
Ahamkara from this have infinite knowledge.
Right. That basically, you ask them something, they always had an answer, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yes. However, a part of their power is it says the price was too high. So it seems that the Ahamkara, even though they have power, whatever wish you make comes at a price.
Basically a bet, kind of, if you think of it in a way, or a deal.
Yes, a
Basically, you
deal.
make you basically you wish this will happen.
Hmm.
Now, whether or not the Guardians knew the risk or not, I don't know. Maybe some came after the fact and weren't known. Maybe some came like during the fact and they knew what would happen. Again, don't really know about that.
Now, there's one more thing I'd like to point out in this Grimoire card. We haven't got to the other bits of lore, but from our prior knowledge, what we already know, the very last sentence here is interesting as well. Of this you can be assured, O reader mine. We know,
Now,
now, the Ahamkara have a saying, "Oh bearer mine," and have even, I believe, said, "Oh seeker mine," and stuff like that. So, for this to be written here makes it seem almost as if an Ahamkara actually wrote this bit. Or else it was
exactly.
a very clever person who wrote this.
That too, because and obviously you could. What I didn't. That's kind of like the things that catches you. Anything that says like as soon as Queen Mara during the Forsaken campaign said, "Oh brother of mine," you could tell straight away something was wrong, and also that it was an Ahamkara because that sentence right there.
Yes. So, definitely want to be
Which
keeping out for the "oh blank mind" sentence within any of this
which
lore.
actually leads Which actually, speaking of the first campaign and Mara and Aldrin, this leads us into a second ability that some Ahamkara have shown, which is
Yes. Being able
yeah, you knew
to
where I was
mimic
going.
other people's voices as well as their appearance, because when uh, what was it of Riven, the um that we fought?
Voice of Riven?
Was it actually just the voice? Yeah, when the voice of Riven came out to confront Aldrin, it was in Mara's form, so we know that they can also shapeshift.
Yes.
And not
Interesting
only
thing though.
shapeshift, I would like to also point out the voice of Riven was a servitor corrupted, so and it doesn't need to physically be there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Interesting thing enough, which we forgot to add, and we'll probably was going to be added later, but oh well. That the Ahamkara will only appear in a form that the Seeker actually wishes to see. Basically, Aldrin wanted to find Mara, so basically the voice of Riven took up the form of Mara.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's gonna say it later, but that was a big problem, I'm sure, with the Great Ahamkara hunt, is there were times nobody knew what an Ahamkara actually looked like,
Oh yeah,
making them
definitely.
very dangerous adversaries.
Like, like a lot of the times, a lot of things Guardians actually killed during the Great Hunt, they didn't know would be an Ahamkara. Well, some knew, but you would have never guessed.
Yeah, and that we're definitely going to be talking about, I believe, with the armor pieces or else the weapons, and we will get to that. But the next thing I want to speak on is Ghost Fragment Warlock.
Alright,
Also in
continue.
Classic Destiny before any of the expansions. It goes, "Why did I set her on the trail? You try to explain, but no one ever understands. No one who's not a warlock, who hasn't spent a dozen years scouring the runes for one string of symbols, one clean code, one black talon. Titans just make a humping noise if they've stayed awake. Hunters clean their nails with their knives and look at you like you've grown a third eye. But when you've spent your life searching through the arcana for ancient power, you have the urge to reach out and educate others, especially if you've had one too many, and okay, I was just like super to death.
Oh my god.
Okay. Um, nah, she's not my type at all. We've played dice, cards, war games, you know, the usual stuff. I never tried to show off before. I don't know what came over me. Great. I keep getting attacked by supers. I'm trying to read.
So,
Uh, don't know what came over me. I had a broken vertebrae in my pocket that I borrowed from. Yes, borrowed. I was going to put it back. What do you think you are, my conscience? It was a fossil. That means mineral replacement. A rock, basically. They can survive a few hours in my pocket. Do shut up. The Cryptarchs weren't going to miss it. Everyone knows the Ahamkara were hunted to extinction. There's nothing to be how mysterious this system is, I said. How much life sprang when the Traveler came. Like the Ahamkara. Do you know the legends? The dragon that made promises? And I pulled out the fossil with a flourish. Damn it. She pulled out her knife and started to pick dirt from her nails. That set me off. You could have never brought down one of these, I said. Ever. Not the greatest hunter, not the brawniest titan. Her eyes narrowed. She said, "Oh, is that so?" And I saw right then that she wasn't going to pass on the challenge. I've murdered a guardian, I thought. She's going to die. It'll be my fault. And I looked at the piece of spine in my hand and wondered, why did I say that? What moved me to such pride? Alright, and that's the end of the Warlock Ghost Fragment.
which, which figures, like, is basically what I'm gathering for that. Do you think this warlock is basically saying, well, I don't know, honestly, but basically was thinking, like, they didn't care, they just thought he was speaking warlock nonsense. So, when he said you could have never killed any of these, that basically set off the hunter, and to be like, oh yeah, watch me kill an Ahamkara. Basically, that sent them out on a hunt for one.
Now, I'd like to point out that this was after the Great Ahamkara hunt, after they were believed to be extinct.
Ah,
And
yes,
yet,
that is true.
and yet the Warlocks still believed that they sent the hunter out to die. As if they... Which means there was still a fear the Ahamkara were around.
Which, actually, I don't remember which one. I know it was something, some armor piece, I think. But I remember, there was an armor piece that basically said, I did it. I knew I proved that Warlock wrong. I don't remember which armor piece that was.
I'm sure we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's basically proving that that hunter probably actually went out there and actually killed an Ahamkara.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out the part in this ghost fragment. Okay. It spoke of he asked himself what moved him to say these things, as if it wasn't actually by his own will, but the vertebrae.
Oh yeah.
But so it's possible. So I believe another part of the Ahamkara's powers is that their bones, even though killed, still contain some sort of power and hold over guardians.
Oh, most definitely.
And we do know that to be the fact for certain armor pieces, such as young Ahamkara's spine, still holds power.
Oh, and definitely with sealed Ahamkara grasp.
Yeah, both of those will probably be a few of the first ones we discuss. Definitely want to go through the exotic pieces that were in the original Destiny first.
And some of them are still around. Actually, I think all the Ahamkara pieces are still around.
Except for Bones of EO, I believe.
Well, yeah.
But I don't think that had an actual lore piece. But, I will just say what the quote was on it, because I looked at that earlier today. The only quote says, defy extinction. Or defy extinct.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now that could either mean like a guardian hunted an Ahamkara and that proved like they're still around, or that could also mean like that the Ahamkara are still around and we just don't know it.
Well, what I gather from that is it's on the bones of Io. Io is one of the Ahamkara who is thought to be deceased, who was killed, and their bones turned into armor. So from what that tells me is even the Ahamkara bones are still living. Like, the Ahamkara is still living through their bones, and they're not actually dead.
I think we'll get into that. Oh, we'll get into something interesting about that when we go into the armor pieces of the Great Hunt.
Yes.
Now, alright, now...
We have more Crucible to do, because I only killed 7 Guardians. I
Okay,
need
that's fine.
15.
That's fine. What?
Okay.
Now, what was the name of the Ahamkara again? It's like blanking in my mind.
Which one, EO?
Oh yeah, Io. I want to point out, Io was, or was it Io? I think it was Io. Yeah. I recently came across a little lore tab thing in the Glittering City, which says he was basically the smallest of the Ahamkara. Basically, he would just kind of go around, just tell lies and stuff, cause mischief, but nothing too harmful. And that really it wasn't seen that he was going to be bad. And that they never expected him to turn. I just thought that was interesting. Basically saying that not all the Ahamkara were pretty much destructive at one point. And basically saying they also came in different sizes. I mean, obviously, if you go to like that one area in Dreaming City and see Hugin and Munin's skulls, obviously those look a lot different. Well, maybe not a lot different. Who knows? Oh yeah, a lot different because they don't have multiple eyes. But they look a lot different than how Riven looks.
Mm.
I
Interesting.
just wanted to go on that.
No, that is interesting bit. Alright, so those are the 3 from Classic Destiny. I believe those are the only 3 before any DLCs came out. The next Grimoire card is Osiris then. It was added in the second expansion.
Which
It
makes
was
sense, because
added
that's
in...
when the trials of
Actually,
Osiris happened.
yeah, it was added in House of Wolves, it says, actually, from what this says. Was that the second expansion?
Yes, House of Wolves came after Dark Below.
Okay, yeah, so it was added during House of Wolves. And this speaks on Osiris. What drives a warlock to madness? Ghosts choose those suited to war and heroism to be reborn, but nature and circumstance, by nature and circumstance, they go to battle against the darkness, and through this battle they learn how to use the light. But warlocks, by their nature, fight a second internal war. This is the war to understand a universe of secrets, a world that expects guardians to fight without full knowledge of what they are or what they might hope to achieve. You were a mighty warrior. I watched you at 6 fronts and heeded the call of Saint 14 to appoint you Vanguard commander. Even when the Concordat claimed to have records proving you were a Golden Age experiment misincarnated as a human by an inept ghost, Saint 14 assured me you were just a man without much patience for Alpha, obfuscation. Uh, I watched you grow tired of strike missions and the grueling, unproductive sessions with the Cryptarchs. That was when I took you under my wing. I saw our future in you. By your okay. But your curiosity was ferocious. How much of a guardian's personality and memories were true? How much had been fabricated by their ghost? Did guardians share particular personality traits? A willingness to yield to authority, a tendency to do anything anyone asked for the promise of uncertain reward, a blind knight-errant mentality? Had the traveler manufactured all of you as living weapons? I admit I found your questions divisive and disloyal, and I feared you might be capable of breaking our unity with the city's position had grown so tenuous. Why divert attention away from the traveler, our only hope? And then it got worse. Dabbling in Thanautics, Ahamkara lore, chasing after Zur and the tricks of the Nine, launching expeditions into the reef and beyond at a time when ships were irreplaceable. Your quest split guardians alongside ideological lines. This was your great crime. Hunters chose to pursue your visions instead of protecting refugees. Titans assembled teams to chase the legendary Vault of Glass instead of striking the Fallen, and warlocks turned away from the study of the Traveler in favor of your ultimate obsession, learning the exact nature of the darkness. When debate became argument and argument became acrimony, I realized you had already become a of personality, attracting guardians who wanted a clear idea of why they were fighting what they faced and how they would ultimately win. Uh, there's still more, but let me get
Interesting.
a few kills. But from what I've read so far of that, obviously this is on Osiris. We know that Osiris studied Ahamkara lore,
It makes
and
sense that he was a warlock, and they said warlocks mainly did that.
yeah. Well, I think what it said Warlocks mainly did. Well, yes, obviously Warlocks are the main people who read lore, but Warlocks were also the main ones who took place in the Great Ahamkara hunt. Which I find
That's true.
interesting that Warlocks would go destroy, something only to go research them later.
Right. Which, only after having that outlawed.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't
Fully
outlawed,
outlawed.
it said it was only frowned upon. Which, makes sense because we know for a fact that Ahamkara lore isn't what got Osiris banished from the tower.
Oh, no. What really got him banished was obviously his prophecies, the whole Vex thing.
Yeah, so it was more the Vex than the Ahamkara, but I'm sure people still, like, uh, looked at him differently whenever he, due to the Ahamkara research.
Oh, without a doubt.
Uh,
That's surely without a
there's a lot here. It goes on to say, I don't know where you have gone, but I can no longer send ghosts out to find you. Some come back with tales of your death or how you went seeking answers from the far reaches of space and time, that you found a way to explore the Vexgate networks, that you've made breakthrough after breakthrough as to their origins, theories that a guardian could not be simulated, that the traveler might be an ontoformer or a god incubator, that the Vex had diverged into multiple groups in order to secure an end state for every possible configuration of reality. I fear you have become obsessed with the Vex as Toland was with the Hive. I've heard your own insane prophecies about pits and dead Hive Kings, and of Crota, which now I cannot deny. I hear stories of Lord Shaxx meeting with fire teams of warlocks who have no shadow and never blink, of jump ships slipping into the reef on cold trajectories and meeting no intercept, of questions hidden in matter engrams and answers decrypted as on distant battlefields. Perhaps you are still out there. If this reaches you, I would very much like to speak with you to hear your theories in your own words. Perhaps what drives a warlock to madness is truth.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so obviously, keeping it to the Ahamkara base, there wasn't much there. However, the last sentence does kind of go with it. What drives a warlock to madness is the truth. So, perhaps they're Perhaps studying the Ahamkara was believed to also drive people mad, and that was part of it, as well as the Vex that got Osiris deemed as a madman.
Which is interesting. So we not only have we seen that with Osiris, but we also seen like Aldrin go mad with the whole Taken thing, or the whole Ahamkara thing. My bad.
Yeah, well, well,
We'll
Aldrin
get
I
into
don't
that.
believe to have been, it wasn't necessarily a seek for truth. He was trying to save his sister. He truly already believed she was living. He wasn't looking for answers. He was just trying to, uh, save her from wherever she was
Yeah,
trapped.
it's very true.
The Taken and Ahamkara just corrupted him and tricked him into doing their dirty work.
Also very true.